welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Studies information session for COE Preview. We're so glad to have you with us today to learn more about our graduate programs in ELPS. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat, or we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end as well. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Toby Park-Gagan, our Associate Chair.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And again, welcome. I'm Toby Park-Gagan, Associate Chair of the department, and I'm joined by several of my faculty colleagues here this evening or this afternoon. They'll get a chance to introduce themselves when we get to their individual sections of the presentation. But up front, what I thought I would do is introduce you to 4 individuals who have additionally joined us. And that is Ms. Deb Ham-Kelly, Ms. Nikki Wright, who serve as Academic Program Specialists here in the department, and 2 graduate students, Kyung-Won Kim and Kendra Bumpus. So maybe if the 4 of you want to say just a quick hello, I'll go first to Deb.
Hi, how are you doing? We're so happy to have you join us for the Educational Leadership and Program Studies Preview Day. Very excited about talking to you about joining us in our Seminole family.
Thanks, Deb. Let's go next to Nikki.
Hi, everyone. It's such a pleasure to meet you all. Again, we're all here to answer your questions, but again, looking forward to speaking with you about everything you need to know about this college and what the department offers.
Great, and let's go to Kyung-Won.
Hi, welcome all. Welcome to COE Preview Day. I'm very excited to see you all and hope to see you in person next year. Thank you.
And Kendra.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kendra. My pronouns are she, hers, and I'm a 4th-year candidate in the higher education program, as well as a GA for the program. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm here to help.
All right, so what we're going to do this afternoon is I'm going to go over some broader view of the department, and then our faculty leaders are going to talk more about individual programs. And at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions from all of you. But at the same time, if questions do come up as we're going along, feel free to put them in the chat. Unmute yourself and ask. It's perfectly okay. I want to start though with a land acknowledgement we've adopted here in the department, which reads, we within the Department of Educational Leadership and Policy Studies at Florida State University acknowledge that our university is located on the indigenous lands of the Appalachian Nation, the Muskogee Creek Nation, the Miccosukee Tribe of Florida, and the Seminole Tribe of Florida. We highlight and pay respect to this history because we understand how the state of Florida and Florida State University came to be settled on these lands. We recognize these lands as scarred with the painful past of enslavement, settler colonial violence, the desolation of culture, and the forced removal of indigenous bodies. Despite this, we respect the cultural and ceremonial practices these indigenous nations maintain in and around Tallahassee today. As educators, we honor the knowledge of these tribes and their people and acknowledge that indigenous students, faculty, and administrators are vital to Florida State University. We embrace the decolonization of our educational system and commit to disrupting suppressive systems throughout the explorations of many truths and lived experiences, and creating room for those who are often excluded by harmful colonial erasures in our practice and pedagogy. The next thing I'll talk to you and just present to you is the ELPS mission. I won't read this verbatim to you, but I think what we can tell you is that we're interested in improving educational systems at all levels. One of the largest things we do is we prepare educational leaders in K-12 schools and post-secondary settings. We also prepare scholars, the next generation of researchers, practitioners, and policymakers throughout the state in education research. So to give you an idea kind of what's important to us right now in the department, this was an initiative that we started last year and something that we're continuing to work on today. And you see here that there on the outside are some initiatives that have been started by the College of Education, COE, as well as FSU. And you see here from the department, one of the things most important to us and central is community building. And through a cycle of overall processes where we promote and support impactful research, establish shared advising practices, improve communication and collaboration, and enhance equity and inclusion. I'm pleased to inform you that as a prospective student, we're actually bringing in new faculty members this fall as well. So we're going to be revisiting these, we're going to be growing, and it's an exciting time to be in the department. To give you an idea of who our students are, just under half of our students identify as non-white. 53% identify as white, 23% Black, and so forth, you see here up on the screen. We're pleased and honored to offer and support such a diverse population of students here in the department. A little bit of information about how we're structured, and you're going to hear more from the program leaders in these areas later on this afternoon. At the largest level, we have two major programs, higher education, and then we refer to often as educational leadership and policy. And then within educational leadership and policy, we divide further to educational leadership and policy and foundations of education. So the major areas of study within these are educational leadership and administration, ed policy and evaluation, history and philosophy of education, and international and multicultural education. And you're going to hear from representatives of these different programs throughout the course of our presentation here this afternoon. I'll turn things over now to my friend and colleague, Dr. Brad Cox, who will talk to you more about higher education.
Thanks, Toby. And I guess I hadn't seen that visual in quite a long time. And it's just funny, like higher ed just kind of sitting out over here in the corner. So I don't know what to make of that. But we've been a part of this program for quite a long, or part of this department for quite a long time. Our program is more than 50 years old, and some of the things that we started back in the day continue today, and we've refined a few things over the years that I want to share with you today. So first off, we build our program along around three pillars: the pillars of leadership, social justice, and student success. These three things permeate all of our classes. So yeah, you'll see in a moment that you know most of our students end up taking classes that have these words in their titles, but we have made a very intentional effort over the last couple of years to infuse every one of our classes with every one of these pillars. And you'll see it showing up in our syllabus, in our readings, and in our activities during the class itself. We build our program also around the core competencies from two of our major national associations, professional associations, from NASPA and ACPA. And we again intentionally structure our courses and our content and our activities around those competencies so that at the end, our students graduate knowing that they have attained a degree of competence in all of those areas. And of course, we really take pride in our partnerships across FSU, including the Division of Student Affairs, and also several of our peer colleges, and even some of those institutions that are outside of FSU, like Florida A&M and Tallahassee Community College, and a historically Black institution, and a local community college here in Tallahassee. So our program, a couple of the kind of key things about our program, both PhD and master's degrees, is that generally our students come in with 20-hour assistantships that include both stipends and a tuition waiver. And for both our PhD and our master's program, we try to embrace a cohort model, which I'll tell you a little bit more here in a moment. One thing I do want to point out before we get out into the next set of slides, that I would encourage students, if you are interested, to also consider the EDD, the online EDD, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. We have maybe 6 to 12 students each year who are focused on higher education and are completing their degree online to get their educational doctorate. So I also encourage you to pay attention when that comes up. So we've got 2 degrees, a Master's of Science and a PhD, specifically in higher education. Our master's degree, it's 39 hours of coursework, and that, generally speaking, for most of our students is 2 years. It's 2 solid years of a program, and you graduate at the end of that second year with your master's. For some students who choose to do it part-time, often those who are working at one of our local institutions, it generally spreads out to about 3 years. But each year we try to bring in roughly 25 students. That's been as low as 22 and as high as 32 over the last 4 or 5 years. And I've talked already a little bit about the intentionality of our structures, and this is true in our curriculum as well. So in the first year, we really do emphasize getting you all the foundation that you need to be able to turn the insights that you have from your first year into practice during your second year in particular. So the first year, you'll see that there's introductory courses, and that these do align very well with our pillars: a diversity class, a theory class, and a leadership class, among others. And then in the second year, you'll see we start to look at outcomes and assessment practices, but then the practicum, the internship, and the capstone complement assistantships to give you that hands-on experience that you can translate directly into the workforce afterwards. The second program officially offered within higher education is our PhD. And this PhD is a research-driven degree that involves 57 hours of coursework on top of your dissertation. So you take your coursework first and then your dissertation hours come afterwards. Those 57 hours include 12 hours of core classes. Again, the really foundational stuff that we want to make sure every one of our graduates is comfortable with and is able to reference appropriately in their work. 15 hours of electives, that's only 5 classes. And in addition, there are 9, what we label them here as outside discipline courses, but they're really courses that are intended to get you to think outside of the mindset of just our core faculty, just our higher education faculty. So a lot of students take courses in sociology, educational psychology, and policy. We even have students taking courses out of the business school or child and family services. On top of that, like I said, it's a research degree, so you're going to have a number of methods courses that total up to about 21 hours of research credits. We have students doing qualitative, quantitative, mixed method studies using original data that they're collecting as well as secondary data that they're taking from other sources. To get that PhD, full-time students, if they're taking courses consistently throughout their time here, they can finish as quickly as 4 years. And we also have students who, again, are usually working in one of the nearby institutions for whom that timeline extends out to maybe 5 or 6 years. And again, in a typical year, our cohort will involve 8 to 10 students. And over the last 5 years, we've had as few as 5 and as many as 14, I believe. It's a big enough size cohort that you are able to grow together and benefit from seeing some of the same people over time and building those relationships. Yet it's not so big as to be overwhelming. You get to know everybody in your cohort when you're here. For the PhD, just to give you a couple of things about our program that really kind of help it stand out. On the left-hand side there, you see some of the core courses, some of the common courses that we have our students take. One of the things I want to highlight there is that it involves both the student affairs side of things, particularly things like student development theory, but also the higher ed policy and governance. And so our graduates do go into faculty, they go into student affairs leadership positions, and they go into policymaking positions directly out of the program. The Pro Seminar is one that will be common across all of the PhD programs in our department. And it's really an introduction to how to be a PhD student. It allows students to meet all of the faculty across all of our programs and is an opportunity for those cohorts to kind of mesh and get themselves off to a good start in their professional development through their PhD. 3 big things I want to highlight about our program that I think make us kind of special. The first is there's considerable methodological flexibility. We have genuine experts in mixed methods, in quantitative, in qualitative, quasi-experimental, panel designs. You can name a method and we've got somebody on faculty who can help you do that and do it incredibly well. The second thing is that we have requirements but tons of opportunities for scholarly engagement, and that includes sending students to conferences. In fact, in 5 days, many of us are going to be getting on a plane to go to San Juan, Puerto Rico, to go present at our major national conferences. And I know at least 2 of my students are coming to present as well. We also have a number of local professional development opportunities. Finally, that we do encourage, though you can have some flexibility here, 2 topical concentrations. And I mentioned already the student affairs. These are folks who want to go on to be deans of students, vice presidents of student affairs, those types of things. And we have several courses that are very much in partnership with some of our DSA, Division of Student Affairs, colleagues and designing to get students into those roles. And then we also have a public policy concentration where you'll learn about organization and governance, finance, policy making, and data-driven decision-making, things along those lines. So we've got a place for you, and we think that we have a program that would be able to serve a lot of students in a lot of really valuable ways. And I'm hopeful that when you see that, you'll give us a call, learn a little bit more, and we'll hopefully be able to see an application from you in the coming months.
All right, up next is Dr. Christopher Small.
Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to be with you all to share some information regarding our online educational leadership and administration program. I currently serve as our director of the program and wanted to take some time to share a little bit about our program and also the trajectories in terms of where we're moving from here. So in terms of program features, our overarching picture is that our program is designed for more or less teacher leaders that are looking to obtain their level 1 educational leadership certification and typically move into the roles of assistant principal, principalship, deans of curriculum, and or a district administrator type position. We are DOE state approved, and so that pretty much designates our program as having met the accreditation standards for being a state approved program, and also includes the requirement of successful completion of the Florida Educational Leadership Exam, better known as the FELE. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment as well. But as part of the graduation requirements, students will be expected to not only take the test, but also pass that in order to be eligible for graduation at the end of their 2-year term. We are fully online, and there are 3 specific tracks that we encompass. And so one is the master's educational leadership degree. We also have a specialist that centers around educational policy. And then we also offer the modified certificate for students who may not want another master's and are strictly looking for the core courses that are required for certification purposes. And then it is a 2-year cohort model that's guided by advising. And so once admitted, students are tracked together over that course of the 2 years in order to successfully complete the program in that timeline. In terms of some of the key components of our curriculum and instruction, kind of a big picture item, there are a total of 80 hours of internship. And this really allows students to have practical experience working with a current existing school administrator or school principal within their primary site. And then also we encompass within that, in addition to those mentoring hours, 165 hours of field experiences. And so in addition to having your core courses each semester, we've broken down these number of hours of field experiences throughout each course to where by the end of the 2 years, you have a complete, not only foundational understanding of curriculum and pedagogy related to educational leadership, but also a lot of practical experience in terms of hands-on in the field activities that prepare you for moving into school leadership. We also encompass practitioners from the field. And so a lot of the staff that you'll come across in terms of the program are current existing administrators, from district supervisors to current assistant principals and principals, to where you're getting feedback from practitioners in the field in addition to our full-time faculty. And then we also employ course mentors, as Dr. Cox mentioned about having TAs and graduate assistants. We utilize current graduate students as well to help assist with that journey of mentoring and providing feedback throughout the program. In terms of outcomes, so just a few things on the left that I won't go through in terms of some of the success rates, and really wanted to spend at least a little time highlighting on the right-hand side, our COE Pass Rates. And so for the Florida Educational Leadership Exam, items that we're super proud of are our pass rates for the FELE. And so I think with the massive influx of just students that are getting into programs leading to ed leadership degrees, looking at programs that are going to produce the outcomes, and you'll see that throughout every program that we house in our department, to where we're producing quality students. And so our pass rates for the FELE are outlined on the right-hand side, that are massively above the state average, and things that we're super proud of. And a lot of that stems from not only having the core curriculum, but also engaging students in the field and the practice of what it takes to be a school administrator. And then also ensuring that we put things in place for students who are coming from districts that may not have the support systems in place within their districts, from rural districts to ones that just may not have the resources. And so how do we provide those through the avenues that are provided online through our platforms, and things that we do have contributed to the pass rates for our FELE success. In terms of kind of current statistics in terms of enrollment, and so we're currently at 104 students in our program, and a majority of those are in our master's and specialist programs. I think takeaway in terms of statistics and looking at the numbers, and so also knowing that our program, since it's online, it's throughout the state, and so we're super excited about not only having the numbers that we have, but also having a variety of backgrounds and students that make up our program from across the state of Florida. So this graphic kind of outlines where our students are coming from. And as you can see throughout, every region throughout the state, we have students that are enrolled in our program. And so I think that also brings to the richness that we're getting in terms of the conversation, the discussion, the networking that's being done, to where in addition to the coursework, you're getting a chance to engage with students from across the state that are bringing with them different perspectives, different backgrounds, and information regarding the landscape of school leadership. And right now with post-pandemic, that's really been, although a difficult situation to kind of, navigate through, we can definitely see the difference in terms of the perspectives and the creativity that's coming from districts that are doing a lot of innovative leadership and instructional practices to ensure that students are being successful. In terms of components, and so what I've kind of outlined here in terms of on the left requirements. And so for our modified program, as I mentioned earlier, they're only taking the core classes. And so that's a total of 27 hours for those students. And then our master's and specialist degrees encompass 33 hours. Our core courses are offered during the fall and the spring. And then we've situated our elective courses to take place during the summer. And so during each of those semesters, you're taking 2 core courses each semester. And then over the summer, if you're in the master's and specialist program, you'll also have anywhere from 1 to 2 courses for 2 consecutive summers to complete your program in terms of graduation requirements. And so in addition to your coursework, we have embedded signature assessments. And so these are kind of our formative and summative assessments along the way to ensure that you're on track for successfully passing the FELE. Bullet number 2 on there is, of course, passing each of the 3 subtests as well as the writing component of the FELE exam, completing your 80 hours of internship mentoring, as well as your 165 embedded field experience hours. We also include a ESOL requirement. And so for certification for school administrators, you have to have a certain number of hours in ESOL background in terms of leadership for diversity. And so we embed that into our program to where you're not having to also engage in additional professional development for your ESOL endorsement. Here, this slide kind of captures the course titles, and again, won't read through each and every one of them, but we have 9 core courses that span to encompass each of the Florida Principal Leadership Standards, as well as the FELE competencies and skills. And so each of the courses is intended to have a specific purpose and provide you and equip you with the skills needed to successfully pass those subtests on the FELE. And then our elective courses on the right-hand side are intended to build upon the foundational core courses, but also provide some leverage in terms of things like policy and intro to program evaluation that provide some additional lens in terms of students that may want to do a specialist and may want to look at leadership through policy and program evaluation. In terms of admissions, and so we admit 3 times a year. And so we just admitted for our fall cohort. And now we're looking at we just admitted our spring cohort when their deadline was due October 1st. And so the next upcoming deadlines for admissions will be March 1st for students who may be interested in joining us over the summer. And then our largest cohort each semester, each year, is our fall cohort. And so that cohort admission deadline is June the 1st. In terms of expectations and requirements, you must have at least 2 years of teaching experience within the state of Florida. Also require 2 written documents. One is your statement of purpose that kind of outlines your career goals and interest in our program. And then the second one is a statement outlining a educational leadership challenge or dilemma that you faced as a research statement in terms of how you address that situation to give us an example of your leadership style and things that you may be facing in the field. A current CV or resume, your official transcripts, and then 2 letters of recommendation. Within that, we also require a principal leadership form that entails your current principal validating that you've met some of the current leadership competencies and skills and rating you in terms of where you stand on the leadership spectrum. Our GRE scores are currently waived through next fall, and we anticipate that continuing moving forward. And so those will be the core items that are required for our admissions process. Which track is right for you? And so I've talked a little bit about each of these 3 programs. I think the biggest difference, and you'll notice to the far right, the financial aid scholarship eligibility is the biggest difference. And so if you're looking to go to join our program and you're only wanting to do the core courses, the difference is going to be that financial aid. And so because our modified certificate students aren't seeking an actual degree, you would not qualify for financial aid or student loan type services. And so that becomes one of those items in terms of if students are looking to pay out of pocket for their degree by just doing the modified versus the other 2 that encompass or allow students to be eligible for financial support as they're continuing with the program. But all tracks, of course, lead to the level 1 educational leadership certification. Then finally, contact information. Ms. Deb and I are typically all hands on deck in terms of responding to emails. And so if you have further questions about our program or would like to have a one-on-one kind of dialogue in terms of where you fit into the ed leadership track, and if the program is right for you, feel free to reach out via email. And I've also included our website for our EDA program.
All right, thanks, Dr. Small. Up next, I believe, is Dr. Stacy Rutledge.
Yes. Hi, my name is Stacy Rutledge. I'm a faculty member in our Educational Leadership and Policy program. And so we have, as when Dr. Park presented the organization of the department, you could see that we have our Ed Leadership and Policy program. We have a face-to-face doctoral program as part of that. And then we also have 3 masters as part of this program. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk about the 3 master's programs and our different specializations. And then I'm going to talk about admissions to both our master's and our PhD. So, we have 3 specializations in Ed Leadership and Policy, and you can get a master's degree or you can focus on our face-to-face doctoral degree. So the first is Education Policy and Evaluation, which trains you to develop, implement, analyze, and evaluate federal and state and local education policies. Students investigate things like charter schools, urban ed reform, school finance, teacher quality, accountability, diversity, to name a few topics. So this is our ed policy. People who study in our doctoral program go on to be people who work in policy centers, or they work in nonprofits, or some go on to become academics. Master's degrees, people who get masters in this go on to work in policy in school districts, also in nonprofits or policy centers. So this is our master's and doctoral degree in ed policy and evaluation. We also have you can go to the next slide. We also have a history and philosophy program. This is very small, but this program, if you're interested in this, you focus on history and philosophy of education, which allows you to take a variety of courses in international and comparative education, educational policy, sociology, history and philosophy. And you can look at this from a domestic and international perspective. And when you leave this program, you're focusing on the foundations of education. And again, we have a master's degree where you can focus on this, and a doctoral strand of our doctoral program. The final program that we have as part of our Ed Leadership and Policy focus is international and multicultural education. This was a program that was established in the 1970s that has been ranked among the top comparative and international development education programs. And students who pursue this degree focus on international education issues, development education through original scholarship and research. And in this program, again, you can get a master's and a doctoral degree. And we have our graduates working at places like I'm trying to think of some, again, nonprofits, several more in government organizations, just such as USAID, and the Peace Corps, these kinds of places. And also some of these people go on to become academics. So we have, for our master's degree, you need to have a 3.0 GPA. The GRE requirement is currently waived. We require a resume, a statement of purpose, letters of recommendations. We would like to see some of these letters of recommendations from some from at least 2 from your professors, from faculty that you've had as in your undergraduate or in another master's degree, and your transcripts. And the deadline for fall has already passed, and we are reviewing those applications right now. But the next one is February 1st for summer 22 and June 1st for fall 22. So our doctoral PhD admission requirements are 3.0 undergraduate GPA, 3.5 graduate GPA. Students usually have a master's degree when they're entering this. You can see here the GRE requirement. Again, a resume, statement of purpose, letters of recommendation. Again, we want to see letters, at least 2 recommendations from people who have had you in coursework. And then this deadline is coming up December 1st. I should also add that if you get a master's degree from us, then it's very easy and seamless to go into our doctoral degree. So if you are someone who is interested in getting a doctoral degree, but you don't have a master's yet, but if you think you want to experiment, see if this works for you, you can start with the master's degree. And if it seems like a promising avenue for you, then moving into the PhD it requires reapplying, but it's if you're doing well in the program, it is often an easy move to the PhD. So I talked a little bit about this before. So what kind of career opportunities? So just summarizing, people with master's degrees have opportunities to teach, evaluate policies and programs, develop local, state, federal policies and programs. I just found out one of our graduates is working for a congresswoman in DC. So that's another example of someone who's a recent grad from this program. Doctoral graduates have opportunities to conduct original and influential research in governmental positions, research think tanks, colleges and university. The university went through a phase where they were identifying the median pay, and here you go. You can see it in the slide. I think that's it.
All right, thanks, Dr. Rutledge. Up next is information about our graduate certificate and program evaluation. And I believe Hyungwon is going to present this for us. Dr. Iderola could not be here today.
Yeah, I'm not Dr. Rachel, and good afternoon. I'm Hyungwon Kim, and I'm a third-year doctoral student in the Education Policy and Evaluation program, and currently serve as a graduate assistant for the program evaluation and institution research certificate programs. So I'd like to share some information with you about the College of Education's program evaluation certificate program, which you can complete along with your master's or doctoral degree program. So program evaluation certificate will provide you with all credentials and training to conduct evaluation of programs and program improvement efforts in different practice settings. So availability is an ideal choice for anyone in the field of program evaluations. So the program consists of 4 courses, 4 required courses: Introduction to Program Evaluations, Evaluation of New Edit Program, and Basic Statistics course, and Qualitative Research and Evaluation Methods, and 1 more elective courses. So you can choose 1 course among several other courses. So the courses are offered both online and on campus. So the program evaluation certificate program will prepare you for a career such as social and community service manager, training and development specialist, and management analyst, introductory coordinator, and program evaluator with an average salary of $58,000 to $85,000 per year. So I'm going to talk about the mission for the P certificate, and you can complete the 5 course certificate program on full-time or part-time basis within a 7-year time period as a non-degree seeking student. or you can complete it along with your master's or doctoral program without additional cost. And yeah, you should apply to the admission to the program before the completion of the 2 courses towards the certificate. So it might be the best to apply for the second courses. So please, if you have any questions or concern about our certificate program, please send an email to us. I'm going to help. I'll be happy to help you if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Dr. Christine Moker.
Hi, I'm Dr. Moker, and I'm one of the faculty members in higher education, and I'm going to be talking about the graduate certificate in institutional research. So this is a great program for anyone who is interested in using data to inform decision-making within the context of higher education. So most colleges and universities have an Office of Institutional Research that collects data for federal reporting purposes, as well as to inform internal operations. So some of the students in this program intend to go work in institutional research offices, but even for students who plan to work in other types of roles within higher education, it can be a useful set of skills for using data to inform decision-making. So this program is open to degree-seeking students in both the master's and doctoral programs, as well as non-degree seeking students that just want to complete the graduate certificate on its own. We have courses in higher education, assessment and evaluation, and institutional research. So the format of the program is intended to be completed entirely online. All of the required core courses are offered in online format only, and many of the electives are also offered online, although there are a few elective courses and methods that are offered face-to-face only on campus. There is also a practicum course that is taken at the end of the certificate program, which allows you to collect your own data and analyze a research question on the topic of your choice, which is a great way to apply the skills that you've learned throughout the certificate program and provide some useful information to a college or university on a topic that's of interest to you. As far as the curriculum, there are 3 required courses: an introduction to institutional research, a data-driven decision-making for institutional research, and the practicum course where you complete your own independent project. And then the program also has 2 elective courses, which are typically methods courses, but also includes the Intro to Program Evaluation course, as well as survey research methods. And both of these courses are offered online. As far as professions in institutional research, anybody who's involved in analyzing student, faculty, staff, facilities, or other types of data for institutional, state, or national policymakers. Many of the graduates of this program go on to work in institutional research, effectiveness, assessment planning, and related fields at higher education institutions. And the average salary, depending on institution type, for an IR analyst is around $51,000 to $65,000 per year. And directors of IR earn between $65,000 and $96,000 per year. So some of the recent graduates of our program have continued on to successful positions, including Vice President for Research and Policy at NASPA in Washington, DC, the Director of Institutional Research at the University of Southern Alabama, the Associate Provost for Institutional Research and Planning at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, and many other positions in the US and around the world. The process for applying for admissions is very similar to the program evaluation certificate that you just heard about. First, you apply for university admissions if you are not a current student. And then there's a very brief certificate admissions form that indicates the classes that you plan to complete during the program and the semesters in which you intend to take them. These, your admissions application must be on file before the courses count towards the certificate program. So you need to make sure that you apply for admissions before you complete the second course in the certificate program. Also, if you decide that you do not want to continue with the program, you are allowed to withdraw at any time and there's no cost to submit an application. And once you have applied, you have up to 7 years to complete the coursework. So for students who are currently degree-seeking students at FSU, even if you're unable to complete all the requirements for the certificate while you're currently in your degree program, you can continue to complete the IR certificate even after you move on, since all of the courses are available online. So if you have any questions, you can go to our website or also send us an email and we'd be happy to provide you with additional information.
Thanks, Dr. Moker. Up next is Dr. Eric Ludwig.
Good. I think I can still say afternoon. It's not quite 5 o'clock yet. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Ludwig, and I am teaching faculty here in ELPS, as well as the director of the online EDD program. So the online EDD program is, I think Dr. Cox at the beginning mentioned, sort of kind of side by side with the PhD program. So the EDD program is a 3-year cohort-based program. And we have that culminates with a dissertation in practice. The program is delivered almost entirely asynchronously online, with the exception of a 3-day summer institute, which we hold here during the 7th week of the summer term in Tallahassee. In the coming year, 2022, that will be June 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Our students come from a range of backgrounds. About half of them work in K-12 educational spaces as experienced school teachers, assistant principals, they work in district offices as directors of curriculum and instruction. We also have about roughly half of our students work in higher education or post-secondary education in 2- and 4-year institutions as faculty, as directors, vice presidents, working in student affairs, higher ed finance, financial aid. We also have a number of people who work in policy spaces, whether that's for state governments, nonprofit organizations. They are, the thing is that they are practitioners, right? This degree is first and foremost designed for practitioners who are interested in studying and analyzing problems of practice, right, within their local contexts in which they work. And here we have the program is a May start date. So we start in the summer term with a new cohort, 1 cohort a year. And our application deadline is January 15th. So as part of admission requirements, we have a statement of purpose along with a problem of practice statement. That's really sort of a research statement. What we want to see is people articulate a sort of an area of interest or a problem that they're interested in researching as part of the problem. In addition to that, we also request 3 letters of recommendation, a CV or resume, transcripts, a graduate degree with at least a 3.5 GPA, and then GRE scores, although the GRE scores are waived this year. And I think, as Dr. Small had said, intention is that is likely to be the case going forward. For those with a completed master's or specialist degree of 3.75 or greater, that will be waived. With graduate degree GPA below that, we request a leadership statement for those with 10 years or more of a professional experience. So looking at the curriculum and course sequencing, there are 45 hours of coursework, and those are completed in the first 2 years of the program. And with 9 credits in the summer terms, the first summer and the second summer, and 6 credits in both the fall and the spring during the first and second year. And then there are 24 hours of dissertation credits, and those occur in the 3rd year post the preliminary exam. And during that is independent, right, dissertation work in which you're working with a major professor, dissertation advisor, and your dissertation committee to conduct your own research. And I will say that during the first 45 hours of coursework, you work through embedded assignments in your courses to develop the framework for your dissertation in practice. So a lot of that is completed within the structure of core program coursework. So we have within that core coursework, we've kind of think about curriculum in three separate buckets. The first is educational foundations and policy. So that's thinking about sort of key policy and educational foundations that shape primary, secondary, post-secondary education, and whether that's something like data-driven decision-making or organization and governance or leadership and administration. The second bucket is methods and methodology. So we prepare folks to do applied quantitative work, applied qualitative methods, mixed methods research potentially. So depending on the focus of your dissertation and practice or the methods that might make sense for you, there are additional electives that you can take on top of the core required courses. And then the last is in what we've called intensive academic immersion experiences. One of those is the Summer Institute. And on top of that, we have a number of courses scattered throughout the program where, as I mentioned before, you are working on as embedded assignments in that coursework, sort of developing the foundations for your dissertation and practice. And the dissertation in practice is the sort of the capstone or the culminating project assessment of the EDD program. And it is original research, empirical research focused on addressing a problem of practice within your local context. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of the dissertation and practice is embedded in coursework during the first 2 years of the program. We have students who do all kinds of work that is sort of applied within their local context. Students looking at financial aid fee implementation, students looking at the outcomes of exclusionary discipline policies in K-12 schools, students looking at professional development for teachers and looking at program evaluation of specific initiatives or programs within their local context or more broadly within a region or across multiple institutions. Any questions that you might have, you can direct those to myself or Ms. Ham Kelly. And I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
All right, thank you. If anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself, whatever you're comfortable with. Don't be shy. While we're waiting on questions, I'll pose a question to some of our faculty. In your opinion, what makes a strong application and what do you guys look for in the applications? Maybe Dr. Small, we'll start with you.
Of course, no problem. I think a few things. One, and that I feel is probably consistent within each of our programs is the ability to communicate your honest and genuine interest in the field of practice and the degree track that you're trying to go down. We're not expecting you to come in as an expert, otherwise you would need our program, but definitely articulating the level of interest that you have there and ensuring that that's conveyed in the materials and the statements that you're submitting. I think right now, so many people are in kind of a space of figuring out what's next for them and reassessing and reflecting on what's important, what they want to do in the future. And so with that comes kind of that ownership of the step that you take. And so all of our programs require a certain level of dedication. There are going to be times where you're going to have and need support to kind of navigate through the terrain, particularly for students that may be still working full-time, you have full-time families. We understand that life happens, but that should not impact the level and the quality of what you're submitting, particularly particularly for your admissions application. So making sure that you convey that level of interest through your statements and through the materials and the quality of the materials that you submit in order for us to have a true idea of what you're bringing to the table and how we can help navigate that next step for you. We're here to help. All of us have extensive backgrounds in the fields and the programs that we're doing. And so we're not anticipating you coming with everything, but being able to put that best foot forward and then reach out. I think there was some comments about, do I need to reach out to a faculty? It's not required. But if you have questions about, if this is the right step for you, reach out early to inquire about it, to where we have an opportunity to set up a Zoom or set up a conference call to kind of talk about, okay, here's where you are, here's some options, and then making sure that you make the best next step for you. There's nothing worse than having, invested in a program or paid your application fee and started a program, and then you figure out, this is not really, what I want to do. And so we want to try to curb those types of things to where once you're in a program, we're able to support you and encourage you to continue to be the leader that you want to be, or to step out into that field and practice or research that you want to do and be successful. And so whatever you can do to articulate that in your admissions process and then communicate with us if you need help moving forward is going to be big in terms of things that we look for. I think we've gotten to a space to where we're not just looking at a GRE score or a GPA, we look at all the factors. And so we know that we have students who come that may not have had, the best quote unquote undergraduate GPA, but there's potential there. And so making sure that we're clear on what you bring to the table is going to be more important to us now, more so than ever, because we're looking at the holistic application and not just these isolated pockets of things that kind of cut people off from having an opportunity. As a student who came in under academic probation, I didn't have the GPA, but I had the support from faculty who kind of took the time to say, hey, here's some things that you can do, and then help to coach me along the way. And so we want to do the same thing for those students who may not come from a educational background or may not have the best undergraduate experience, but still have gifts that and talents that they want to use and apply in the field.
Excellent advice. Thank you. Two questions that came up in the chat. One was, let's see. Does a student's research have to directly align with the faculty members? It depends on the program, but I will let Dr. Ludwig weigh in. She's interested in the online EDD program.
Yeah, I think it was Allison. Is that who it was? Yeah, Allison. No, we don't. I would say we have a broad range of faculty from across the LPS advise in our EDD program, and we have a wide range of experience, research interests across our faculty. So I would say no. Maybe to piggyback off Dr. Small's response and Jenny's original question, in applicants, we're looking for one sort of professional experience. What sort of story do you tell about your professional experience and about why pursuing a doctoral degree right now makes sense for you? And the second thing is, we ask for a research statement or a problem practice statement, I think, is seeing people being able to articulate an area or a problem that they're interested in pursuing. Because of the accelerated nature of the EDD, being in 3 years and completing a dissertation within that time frame, it helps for students who have a sort of a strong interest or understanding of what it is they want to research in the program. Now, people change their minds, and what you write in your research statement, we don't hold you to that forever. People evolve, their ideas evolve over time, but being able to see people articulate something that they're interested in and why they're interested in that is something that we consider quite strongly during application review.
Thank you. The other question was related to international students and the chances for admission to our programs. The College of Ed is actually home to students from 42 different countries. So international students are absolutely welcome here and thrive here. So don't be shy about applying. Any other questions?
There was a question in the chat about instances where application fees are waived. I don't know how to answer that, but I didn't want to miss it.
As far as I know, they are not typically waived. I think there's only one specific circumstance where they are, and I believe it's with our FAMU feeder program. So no, I don't think application fees are typically waived. But please correct me if I'm wrong if someone knows otherwise. Any other questions? Don't be shy. Okay, I'm going to pose a question to our students who are on the chat. What made you come to FSU? Kendra, I'll start with you.
So for me, I was actually already in the area. I worked professionally for Florida State for approximately 8 years, and never thought that I would stay this long in Tallahassee. But Tallahassee has a great way of like sucking you in and keeping you here. But I was looking at a couple different programs, and a couple of the things that really brought me to this program in particular was one, I actually had an idea of what I wanted to study, and they would let me do that here. So it wasn't like at some of the other institutions where they were like, oh, well, we'll assign you somebody and you'll work on their project and that will be your dissertation. And I didn't want to do that. The other thing is that the students here are really nice. We're competitive as a program, but the students are not competitive with one another. And so it was really nice. I mean, and I said this last night, if you joined us last night, but once we know what people are studying, we'll like send each other references or, hey, I saw this, thought you might be able to use it, which is the academic equivalent of a hug, in my opinion. And so I just really enjoyed the people. Again, I really enjoyed being able to study what I wanted to study and not just being put on somebody else's project. So that's me.
Excellent. Kyungwon, same question. What made you choose FSU?
It's a really interesting question for me because I was an elementary school teacher in South Korea, worked as for more than 6 and 7 years. And when I got a master's degree, I had a chance to work with some professor in South Korea who graduated from FSU. And they're talking about FSU and like Dr. Rutledge or Dr. Akiba or Dr. Aistrola, they work with you and also talk about lots of good things about FSU to me. And I was considered the FSU one of my top priority when I applied for the FSU. And that's the first thing. And second thing is like some students are asking me that, my research interest align with my advisors? And that's the second thing. And third thing is I love Florida and more than any other states. So that's my third reason to choose the FSU actually.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you're here. Another question in the chat, can I apply for more than one program? Yes, you may. It's another application, but you can apply to as many programs as you would like. Any other questions? Yes, this is being recorded and I will be posting it on our website for folks who couldn't attend, or if you want to go back and review, it'll be up at education.fsu.edu/preview, and I'll drop that link in the chat here directly.
Can I say something about the applying to multiple programs?
Sure.
So when we review applications, we want to see a strong link between your interests and our program. So if you're applying, if you say that you're interested in teaching and learning and you're applying to our policy program, we might read that and say, well, you're actually, this person, if they're not focusing on the policy side of teaching and learning, curriculum and instruction, might be more appropriate in a different department in the College of Education. So people do apply to multiple programs, but if you do, make sure that you are thinking about the relationship between your interests and what the program has to offer.
That's a good point. Thank you. All right. Any other questions before we wrap up? Alrighty. I think that'll do it for us. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating today. And we look forward to seeing your applications and having you on campus. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you.